Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the expanded bottle bill referendum that will be on the ballot in November. Victor handed out basically what you're going to get from the League of Women Voters, I think. Oh, okay. I might get it from both, right? Yes. Okay. Great. So that hasn't been mailed yet?
Hasn't been mailed yet.
So can you just give us a brief summary of what this was?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I think the first paragraph is that the proposed law would expand the beverage container deposit law to require deposits on containers for all non-alcoholic, non-carbonated drinks in liquid form intended for human consumption, except beverages from dairy products, infant formula, and FDA-approved medicines. And then there are some exclusions, and would go into effect in April of 2015.
Okay, thank you. So I believe we have representatives here for and against. Why don't you come up front? Why are you standing there? Just getting the opposite side?
Do you have a side preference?
Oh, whatever.
Can I hand out our one pager?
Yeah, you can do that.
I do not have one.
Okay.
When I'm talking, I'll stand, but I hurt my knee.
Nicole?
Yes, Nicole Jim.
All right. Okay, so you're with the yes crowd, right?
I'm with the no.
Oh, you're the no. Okay. So yeah, start with the yes, if you just repeat it. Tell us why you're supporting this.
Sure. I'm Phil Segal. I'm with the Sierra Club, and I've come to talk to you on the yes on 2. Am I talking loud enough for everybody? Sure. And I know that following anything about dogs is a really tough act to follow. I apologize. But to me, this is my passion. I've been working on this bill for about 14 years, bringing it to the legislature, session after session, and every single session, nothing happens, which is why we've put this on the ballot. Essentially, this bill is putting the same deposits that we currently have on Coke and Pepsi, and just putting that on water bottles, Gatorade, juices, things that we normally see in litter. And I know there's a problem because I just walked here from the tea. So it's a problem here, it's a problem. I live in Cambridge, right outside Central Square. It's a huge problem every day. I pick up about half a dozen to a dozen empty bottles in the street just on my way to the tea in the morning. So it's terrible. The bottle bill has been in effect for just over 30 years. It is by far the best recycling and anti-litter bill anywhere in the entire world. It's copied around the world. It exists right now in about 11 states, very similar to our bill. A number of them are here in New England. Massachusetts was among the first states in the nation to adopt a bottle bill. We've made a couple of minor changes in it over the past 30 years. However, one problem is that consumer tastes have changed. 30 years ago, nobody drank Gatorade. I don't think there was Gatorade 30 years ago. I don't remember 30 minutes ago, 30 years ago. People didn't drink Gatorade, there were no Nantucket nectars, all these things didn't exist. Suddenly, they're on the market. The woman who worked on this bill 30 years ago, former State Senator Lois Pine, said, if we had any idea that people would be drinking these things, of course we would have, but they didn't know it didn't exist. So here we are, now 1/3 of all the beverages that we consume are not covered by the bottle bill, and they're ending up in our streets. How many beverages is that? We drink just in Massachusetts 3.5 billion bottles every single year. 2/3 covered, Coke and Pepsi, beer, etc. 1/3 not. So what happens to the ones that are not covered? Well, the ones that are covered, they're great. 80%, this is Pepsi, you can't see it, 80% of these bottles will be recycled. They're not going to wind up in the trash, they're not going to wind up littered. Water bottles, this is Aquafina. Notice the bottle is perfectly 100% identical, but because one has carbonated stuff in it and one does not have bubbles, 22 to 23% of these will be recycled. The rest will wind up as litter or trash. When things wind up as litter, they never get recycled. Sweeper trucks don't recycle. The benefits of the bottle bill are clear. It's an incredible fight over litter, recycling, but there's one other thing. Who picks up the trash in the streets besides all of you and me? The city, they pay people to do it. That costs Massachusetts cities all around about $7 million a year. This will save, according to the Department of Environmental Protection, will save cities and towns $7 million every single year if we enact the bottle bill. So that's savings for us, the taxpayers. Who supports the bottle bill? 100 environmental organizations, the League of Women Voters, Sierra Club, Mass Audubon, Mass PIRG, State Rep Aaron Mikowitz, Senator Petroselli, the governor, former Mayor Menino, Mayor Marty Walsh, 209 cities and towns, including Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, pretty much every city and town in eastern Mass, and most of those in western Mass. 65% to 75% of the public, in every survey that's been done, that we've done, including the Boston Globe, between 65 and 75% of the public want to see updated. And volunteers like me, I'm not paid, I'm here because I love this issue. I've been working on it for 12 years to 14 years because I love the issue. Opposition, well, you'll hear from the opposition. Big bottles, big business. If you didn't see the Boston Globe and the Herald, $5.5 million came from out-of-state big business companies to defeat the bottle bill. $200,000 came from environmentalists to match the $5.5 million. I gave money myself, my friends gave money, my mom, who was turning 93, gave money. And people like you, I hope, after tonight.
Okay, Nicole, want to introduce yourself, your representation?
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Nicole Jim. I'm with No on question 2. As Phil laid out, the bottle deposit law, will be question 2 on your referendum this November. Will add a 5-cent deposit to a number of additional beverages. That's bottled water, juice, iced tea, sports drinks. That also includes gallons of water, 63-ounce jugs of cranberry juice. So a lot of containers, additional containers, will have that 5-cent fee. And what a lot of people don't realize is that it's built into the law for that 5-cent fee to automatically go up every 5 years. So that's automatically going up every 5 years without a vote from the people or from the legislature. And I'll tell you a little bit about the No on Question 2 coalition before I get into why we're so concerned about Question 2. No on Question 2 just launched in July. We have over 500 members as of now, and we're made up of just individuals like you and me who like to recycle at the curb. We have environmentalists, we have recyclers, recycling facilities throughout Massachusetts. We have big businesses, small businesses, restaurants, community grocers, convenience stores, who just know that this is going to force them to essentially raise their prices because it's such a cumbersome law. So that's essentially what our coalition is made up of. We also have chambers of commerce, and we continue to grow every day. So our biggest concern with question 2, I think everybody in this room shares the same goals and objectives. We all want to see recycling increase, and we all want to see cleaner streets. I don't think anybody here would dispute that. The disagreement is really in how to get there. And we look at question 2, and it just doesn't make any sense. It is not the envy of the world, as some would have you believe. It's actually, in the past 30 years, only 10 states have adopted question 2, have adopted a forced deposit system. And it hasn't shown any dramatic recycling increases. So you look at the cost of question 2, if this were to pass, it would add nearly $60 million a year to grocery costs. That's not even including the 5-cent deposit. That's just because it's going to burden these grocers so much. They're forced to give up valuable retail space, accept these bottles and cans in their store. So essentially they have people lugging bags of trash back to the grocery store, and that costs them a lot of money. So that's going to cause grocery costs to go up just across the board. And that's a lot of money for a law that does essentially nothing. Those bottles and cans make up less than 1% of the entire municipal waste stream here in Massachusetts. So by passing it, we'd be increasing recycling 1/8 of 1%. So that's $60 million a year that we're paying at the checkout counter for a 1/8 of a percent increase. That simply doesn't make any sense at all, if you ask me. I know I'm always walking down the aisles, trying to look for deals, trying to look for what's more affordable. And I can't afford to pay more for groceries. I think a lot of people want to cut those costs. And what's frustrating is that we already pay for a better system that's cheaper, more convenient, and works better. It's called curbside recycling. When the initial deposit law passed in 1982, curbside recycling did not exist at all. So that's something that's pervasive around the state today. People don't even think about it anymore. You put all your recyclables in one bin, you don't have to sort them anymore. You walk them to the edge of the driveway, the edge of the curb, leave them there, somebody picks it up and does the rest. That system is 3 times cheaper than a system that requires you to put some of your recyclables in a bag, lug them back to the grocery store and wait in line, and then feed them into a reverse vending machine one by one. So essentially, you can put them all in one bin, it's cheaper, it's more convenient, it'll keep grocery prices affordable, or we can have this dual system that's going to add costs for everybody who goes to the grocery store. It's going to force these grocers to raise their prices, it's going to take money out of local economies, and it's going to do next to nothing for recycling. So again, we all have the same goals, but when you look at the way this works, it's clearly not an effective law. I think we need to look at how much has changed since 1982, when the initial deposit law passed. Like I said, curbside recycling didn't exist back then. Today, 90% of communities in Massachusetts have access to either curbside recycling or some type of community recycling program like a drop-off center. That's what we should be expanding on. We should make it so that 100% of communities have access to curbside recycling, where they can recycle at the curb, no sorting. We should make it so that there are more recycling receptacles in public places. So you go to the park, you can throw something in the trash, you can throw it into a recycling bin, and that, mind you, would capture all recyclable materials, not just a few bottles and cans. Because I'm sure when you walk down the street, you see more than bottles on the ground. So if we're going to get cleaner streets, we need to target everything. So why not invest $60 million in a system that's going to target everything we're recycling at home and everything we're recycling on the go, rather than invest in a system that's going to do next to nothing and target less than 1%? What about the other 99%? It's just not an effective, efficient law. Another thing you have to remember is that $60 million I'm talking about, that is only on added grocery costs. That doesn't even factor in the deposits. I don't know about you, I recycle at home at the curb. So if I drink a vitamin water or a nice tea or a bottled water, I recycle it at home, so I lose that 5 cents, and you probably know where that 5 cents goes. It goes to the state. Over the past several years, $350 million in consumer money has gone right to the state, right into the state's general fund. It hasn't been earmarked for environmental programs. So as we're recycling at home, we're actually in a way getting penalized for recycling in a convenient way at the curb, because then we're losing that 5 cents. I think a busy family of 4 is going to opt to recycle at the curb rather than separate their containers and drag half of them back to a grocery store. So they're going to lose that 5 cents, which is going to go up every 5 years. So in a way, this just amounts to a money grab. We're sending a lot of money to state government to use as they see fit, when we should be keeping it keeping it in our pockets, but also investing in effective recycling programs that work better. I'll wrap up shortly, but I think we'd all agree that Massachusetts is an innovative state, and that's something that we pride ourselves on. I'm very proud to be from a state that invests in greater health care and greater technology. And I think by expanding a 1980 system, be kind of like investing millions of dollars in bringing typewriters back. It's just not something that we use today. It's not efficient. We need to continue to move ahead. We've invested in recycling technology that works really well. We need to build on that. We need to bring it to more people. We need to keep moving ahead. It's not going to serve us well to be spending more money on an inefficient system that's 30 years old, that hasn't, frankly, shown significant results. So I'll wrap it up there, and then we can open it up to questions.
Okay, I want to hear your opinions of good advocacy on both sides. If you have an opinion or questions, go right ahead.
I have a question. First of all the, you probably know the statistic, of all the bottles that are sold now, how many of them have a recyclable, have 5 to 6% deposit, how many don't?
I don't know the actual number, but currently it's beer and soda that has the deposit on it.
Right, but the total bottles that are, do you know the answer to that question?
You know, it's approximately just over 2/3. So if you call it 2/3, it's 3.5 billion. So about 2.2 billion are returnable. 1.2 billion, so the total is 3.4. 1.2 billion are not.
So,
And it's those 1.2 billion that we're finding on the streets.
well, something, first of all, that by inference, that means we're spending $120 million a year now to recycle those in the stores, is that correct? You're saying it's going to cost $60 million a year to recycle the new ones, so we've already absorbed $120 million a year?
Well, I'd have to look at the economic analysis, but I'm familiar with what the added cost would be if question 2 were
But
to
do you agree
pass.
with the logic there, that we must already be paying $120 million, is that what you're saying?
Well, I haven't, that's not what I'm saying, because I don't have the study in front of me, but we've done an economic analysis, and question 2 would add $60 million. We've talked to grocers, that's why we have so many grocers in our coalition. They know that this would force them to raise their prices, because it's a heck of a lot of overhead costs.
I have the answer. Sure. I don't need the economic analysis. It's pretty straightforward. Right now, there's a little fee. It's about 2.25 to 3.25 cents every time that you bring back an empty container to the grocer or to the redemption center. They get 2.25 to 3.25 cents for the trouble of handling it. Those are the numbers she's talking about. The universe, if they expand it, is approximately $57 million. So that's of the $3.5 billion industry. About 1% would be going to that overhead. Now, let me just tell you what's going on in Maine and New Hampshire. Maine has the most comprehensive bottle bill in all of New England. They cover water and juice and Gatorade and absolutely everything, orange juice. They cover it all. New Hampshire has no bottle bill at all. So DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, I'm sorry, I should stand. They did a study. They say, okay, according to what they're saying, prices are the highest in Maine and the lowest in New Hampshire, and they found it's actually the exact opposite. New Hampshire, with no bottle bill, has the highest prices. Maine, with the most expensive return system, have the lowest consumer prices. So pricing is not determined on a state-by-state basis. It's determined nationally. It's determined sometimes regionally. And the last time you'll see, when you go to New Hampshire to a Stop and Shop or a Market Basket, you'll see the same prices.
It's interesting that he brings up New Hampshire because they're actually, as he said, they don't have a forced deposit system, and they're actually shown to have cleaner streets than neighboring states who do have forced deposit systems. So it really isn't the envy of the world when it comes to keeping the streets clean. But if I can build on what Phil said about the handling fee, that's another item that's going to automatically go up every 5 years without a vote from the legislature or from us. But also that handling fee doesn't cover the costs. We don't have community grocers filling up our coalition for nothing. They're worried about this. They know this is going to be expensive, and it's going to force them to raise their grocery prices. It's too heavy of a cost for them to absorb. It's basic economics to know that when an industry is burdened with $60 million, it is going to come back to consumers at the grocery store. So it's just an important thing to remember. When you compare curbside recycling, where there's essentially 2 steps, you put it on the curb and someone else picks it up and does all the rest for you. You don't even have to think about it. Compare that with the forced deposit system, where you're putting it aside, then bringing it back to the grocery store, and then you're redeeming it at the grocery store, and then somebody comes to pick it up and then takes it to a processing facility and then takes it to the manufacturer. It's easy to see with all those multiple steps why this costs a lot more money.
What does curbside recycling mean?
I'm sorry, I'll clarify that. So curbside recycling is, from what I understand, what you have here in the North End and on the waterfront. It's you put your recycling in the curb and leave it out there, and a truck picks it up.
How about the people who throw the bottle on, is that where they throw the bottle on the curb?
Well, we also need
They're all
more.
over the place.
We need more recycling receptacles in public places too, and that there are a lot of other items that are preventing our streets from being clean. And it's, are we going to spend $60 million a year plus $30 million in deposits for a system. When we're spending that kind of consumer money, we really need to think about whether it's for something efficient. And question 2 just isn't an efficient way to go about this. There are better ways to do it.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Who did the study that came up with the figure of $90 million in
Sure, Northbridge Environmental Consultants. They're
Tell me about them.
Yep, they're based in Westford, Massachusetts, but they're nationally known. They do research for the federal government. They're a highly reputable research organization.
Would they be considered reputable by people at the Sierra Club in that, or is this, because I know very often the names can sound, you know, it's environmental, consortium can sound, oh, they're really environmental, or this and that, and in fact, it may be all the grocery stores that have, you know, make up, or that's what I'm...
You're welcome to look at their website. It's Northbridge Environmental Consulting. I think there's another organization by a similar name, but you're looking for the one that's based in Westford, Massachusetts.
Who paid for the study?
Who paid for the study? The No on Question 2 Coalition, I believe. But I'd want to double check that.
Can I answer your question? Does the Sierra Club? No.
Bob?
Not at all.
Yeah, why couldn't, you got a new bill that's coming out, the old bill is 82, right? The money shouldn't be going to the general fund. The money should be going back into a fund that puts back money into the recycling system. That would make more sense for me, and we would all go for it. I don't take my bottles to the
We both have
to the store. I
responsibility.
mean, I throw them in the recycling bin, so I pay a
So you're
nickel,
losing that.
and I'm still losing a nickel in the city games.
So you're essentially getting penalized for recycling.
On both
which just
both
doesn't make
sides.
any sense.
So I would go for a bill if the bill said that monies that are generated, I don't know where they go. Nobody knows where the money goes after that. You don't hear anything in the state saying, well, we had $350 million last year for recycling.
Well, you're in luck, because that's exactly what the ballot initiative says. When you get your red folder, you'll see it right there. We're going to take all those forfeited deposits, we're going to take all those forfeited deposits, and we're going to put them in a special fund, and that fund is only going to go to recycling, cleaning up our streets, and our parks. That's all it's going to do, and you are absolutely correct. It's not going to the general fund. We don't like it as much as you don't like it. We actually agree on something. We don't want, and I probably think everybody here, we don't want that money just to be thrown into the general fund. We want that money to be used to clean the streets, maintain our parks, and clean our rivers and lakes. They need attention. And with this bill, when this passes, you'll get just that, to the tune of, I don't know, $50 million something a year, which is not an incredible amount of money to clean up a whole state, but it's a very good start.
Can you reference with that?
Absolutely happy to.
Oh, it's not on that page.
Oh, it's not?
It is on the red page there.
No, it's on page 3 of the question 2 that you will receive when you receive this in the mail.
I got mine today.
Yeah, I just didn't want the photo 3 pages that people
Oh, okay.
wouldn't have a chance to read, so I only photo page 1.
Okay.
If you go to, there's a website, bottlebillfacts.com. Go to bottlebillfacts, you'll find that information there. A lot of numbers that have been around tonight. A lot of them are, you know, is it 60, is it 90, is it 30? I mean, what's it? Go to bottlebillfacts.com, you'll see those numbers, they'll be sourced. A lot of DEP information, Department of Environmental Protection. A lot of information have come from colleges and universities across the
Okay,
country.
you have the reference there?
Yeah, I have it right here. There shall be, this is the text of the law itself. There shall be established on the books of the Commonwealth a separate fund to be known as the Clean Environment Fund. All abandoned deposits collected pursuant to Chapter 94, Section 323 sections.
That's right.
It's more than that.
It shall be deposited into the Clean Environment Fund. Amounts deposited in said fund shall be used, subject to appropriation, for programs including but not limited to projects supporting proper management of solid waste, water resource protection, parkland, urban forestry, air quality, and climate protection.
So it's in the draft, but let's be honest, the first deposit law that passed in 1982 said the exact same
No, it
thing.
didn't.
And
No,
what
no,
happened?
No. The first deposit law, no clean environment.
There-
It was wide open. That was added 5 years later by NEWRA.
Okay, so there was a clean environment fund at one point. The same thing was said in the past, whether or not that nuance is true. There was a clean environment fund at one point.
Yes, Governor
correct?
Romney and the legislature took that
It
when the
was
state
written.
was in terrible financial straits.
We all know that the legislature has the right to use finances as they wish. And we all know that if there is a giant fund of money there, it is ultimately going to go right into the general fund. It is not going to go to environmental programs. I think all of us know that very well. I don't think anybody believes that that fund can't be rated like it was before, because it's very easy for that to happen.
But it's a law that did it. It's not, the governor can't wake up one morning and change the law. It has to go to the legislature. The legislature is the one who changed the law to respond to an economic crisis in the state. Because we have to have a balanced budget. The state was in terrible financial straits. They took all dedicated funds, not just this one. Right now, Massachusetts is doing well. And, of course they can change the law. They can change any law they want. They're the legislature. But to just think that, they could just change it overnight, it's just misleading.
They can change it and they will. I mean, yes, Massachusetts is doing well, but
I'm sorry.
are you predicting that we're never going to have financial issues again?
I'm
Where,
predicting that we have a
we
legislature.
understand that. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I have an observation, President. Actually, an answer to your question. What happens to the 5 cents that we don't get when we don't return the deposit? The trash takers get it. The trash takers, which raises another issue, and perhaps, what? Oh, thanks. Perhaps a question arising from that should be addressed to the board, yes, which is to address the problem we have in the North End, which is the trash pickers opening bags, searching for returnables, taking them, leaving the bags open, they get picked up and the trash is all over the street. The remedy for that would be to abolish all 5 cent deposits entirely.
Right.
And put everything into curbside recycling. Why isn't that a sensible proposal? I like
Well,
that.
Okay, no, it's a good question.
And to add to that, I guess, it's my understanding that the trash pickers are not homeless people doing this to survive, that it has become a business and is organized with a hierarchy, and the people who go out and pick trash are at the low end of it, but then the bodies get put into Cadillacs, which take them somewhere else. Now, this is not,
I haven't seen the Cadillacs.
I haven't seen Cadillacs, but I've been told that others have seen them.
Well, let me tell you what I know. The bottle bill is about litter. It was about litter 30 years ago. It's about litter now. We have a terrible litter problem. As I mentioned, I live in Cambridge, right outside Central Square. There's a lot of litter in my neighborhood. I don't live in a nice part of Cambridge. I don't live in a bad part of Cambridge. It doesn't matter. There's a ton of litter. There's litter on my lawn, litter in the gutter. There's litter on the sidewalk. What I did on my block, because I had the same problem you did, with people going through trash, looking for those empties, whether they, people that go at 3 in the morning on a cold December day to dig through my trash for a nickel, I don't want to clean up the trash after them. On the other hand, it's hard for me to blame them. I haven't seen them pull up in nice cars. I usually see them in shopping carts. In any case, not to knock these people, because they're working for those nickels. What I did in my neighborhood, in my block, is I organized everybody to say, if you want to put deposit bottles in your recycling bin, put them in a clear plastic bag and tie it to the side. And now, up my street, and about 4 or 5 streets all around us, our neighborhood coalition, called Area 4 Neighborhood Coalition, got educated people, multiple languages. Please do this with your bottles. If you want to throw them away, if you want to put them in, just put them in a clear plastic bag and to the side. And you know what? It stopped it entirely. No more rummaging people trash. That was about 7 or 8 years ago, and it worked like a charm.
We do that now. We do that now, and they rip them out, because they see the bottle now. Hey, here we are, another nickel. Boom. And they rip the bags.
That's right. We take beer bottles, and there's a bunch of kids that live across the street. We told them to take the beer bottle, put them in the case, put them right next to it, and suddenly it all stopped. Now, I don't know if 100% of it stopped. it's all about this. And why don't we get rid of the bottle bill, the best recycle? The fact that the thing that we need to keep in mind is this. The bottle bill, curbside works absolutely great on things you consume at home. But 75% of the beverages that we're consuming in this state, we consume on the go. Offices, parks, walking down the street, which is why you see so many vending machines in store 24/7. Because people are consuming these things outside the home is great, curbside is great, but curbside only works for things you consume. It doesn't work when you're on the go, and that's our biggest problem.
Tom, why don't you weigh in?
Thank you. Just pointing out, for those who think every 5 years an increase should have to come before the legislature, which is already gridlocked, as we know, this cost of living increase is built into many of the formulas that we have, and that works just fine. Secondly, when you have your tires changed, you are paying a recycling fee for your carbon footprint. When you have your oil changed, part of the cost is for the disposal of a hazardous waste product. So think of it, if you own a car, if you don't own a car, you don't have that problem. If you own a car, it's the equivalent of having poop bags. You don't have a dog, you have a car, and you are responsible for it. So, and there's an externality going on here. I think I can speak, having worked in the city of Lynn for 35 years, that it does, for some people. I see scout troops who raise money. There are some people who have rolling recycling centers. There are aspects of this that we keep on thinking that it's the mom and pop stores who are going to get hit hard. There will be very imaginative, market-driven responses if we had, for example, even in the north end, I'm smiling, wine bottles in the state of Maine. I have two sisters who live in the Portland area, and I've never heard a peep out of them. So just the thing about cost of living, COLAs, C-O-L-A's, that is not a tax, and it prevents what you're doing is preventing distraction of legislature and our executive and legislative branches to focus on more important things. Thank you.
There's been a lot said, so I don't know what to respond to first. So if I don't respond to something that caught your ear, please let me know and I will respond to it. But first of all, when you talk about people going around and picking up these containers, I think it's frankly pretty sad if the way that we're dealing with the underserved community in Massachusetts is by having them go around and pick up trash essentially and take it back to a reverse vending machine. That's a social policy issue and it needs to be dealt with that way. It's also important to keep in mind that underserved and people who are on low and fixed incomes are hurt by this the most because it's regressive. It makes grocery costs go up across the board. It adds that 5-cent fee to containers across the board. So people who are on fixed incomes are hurt by this the most. So I don't think it's really fair to say that there are people who are going to be disadvantaged if we don't pass question 2. I also want to. It was brought up. It's built into the fee, but we as residents already pay for recycling. When you leave your containers at the curb, you're paying for that system. Whether you're paying an organization or you're paying in taxes, you're paying for that system. So what question 2 essentially has us doing is paying for another system that achieves the same thing but in a more complicated way. So you're paying to leave your recyclables at the curb, then you're losing the 5 cents for using the system that you pay for, and then you'd be paying for another system that has you getting in the car, which is of course not good for the environment, and driving back to the grocery store and feeding those cans one by one. So it's a duplicate system. Curbside recycling addresses everything, and I know Phil said that it doesn't get on the go containers, but if we want to get containers on the go, we need to put more recycling in public places because there are a lot of things that need to be recycled on the go. So if we're going to spend $60 million plus another $30 million in deposits, we need a system that is going to capture everything and it's going to work. The disagreement isn't about whether we should recycle, it's about how to do it. And I also want to draw a little bit of attention to the coalition because I know there are a lot of misconceptions. I just want to establish that we have people in our coalition who have worked in the recycling industry for decades. We have people like Bob Durand, who was the former Secretary of Environmental Affairs here in Massachusetts. He's obviously a passionate environmentalist, and he is somebody who has devoted his life and career to making recycling work better. And he's part of our coalition because being an expert in recycling, he knows that this is a bad idea. We have recyclers in our coalition Casella in Charlestown, just in that facility, they process 1,000 tons of recycling a day. And they know probably better than a lot of people what makes recycling increase, and they're against question 2. We also have people like Bob Moylan, who was up until recently DPW Commissioner of Worcester, and he oversaw dramatic recycling increases there. He's against question 2. So there are people on our side who are passionate environmentalists who know these issues and who are opposed to question 2 not because they're opposed to recycling, but because they want to recycle, they want cleaner streets, but question 2 is simply not the way to do it.